The family of Prince Andrew's accuser, Virginia Giuffre, have launched a GoFundMe to build a memorial in her memory. So Virginia reportedly left a multi-million-dollar estate. Why have the family chosen to launch the fundraiser?
Yes, so the family of Virginia Giuffre have launched this fundraiser. It is essentially to leave a mark, they think, a physical mark of her legacy as an activist, as an advocate, as a survivor of abuse and trafficking. And of course there were questions because we know that Virginia Giuffre has received millions of dollars in her lifetime through settlements. There was so there's questions being asked, well, hang on, does she not, what's happened to this money that was in her estate? And essentially that money is still there, but it will take many years of complicated, I guess, legal processes before that money is available. I think because she passed away without a will, and she was living in Australia, she was an American citizen, it's very complicated. So her family might not receive any of that money that she received from Prince Andrew in a settlement. It could be years that they could be waiting.
Okay. All eyes were on Buckingham Palace's famed balcony as the royal family gathered to mark VE Day, but the group looked even smaller than usual. Who was missing from the lineup, and is this a sign for the future?
Yeah, well, it feels like that. It feels like it's the ever-shrinking Buckingham Palace balcony because I think a lot of people, still remember during Queen Elizabeth's time, the balcony was a huge thing. It would have 30 people on there. She'd get all of the cousins, all of the relatives would be there. And since King Charles has taken the throne, he really has slimmed it down. He basically cut it back to core working royals. So that was only about a dozen people. But on VE Day, it was even smaller than usual. We didn't have the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, who were working royals. They weren't there. Some people thought, well, is Prince Andrew going to show up? Of course not, but he wasn't there. And the other sort of noticeable absence, I guess, would be the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh's children were not there. We know that Louise Windsor is away in Scotland at university. It's unclear if they just decided, okay, now that they're off, they're having their own lives, they won't be on the balcony anymore, or if this was a one-off. But yeah, I have to say it was looking pretty sparse up there. There were some big gaps, especially, they kind of stage managed it a little bit. So they had the Wales family on one side, on the King's left, but that other side was looking pretty sparse. So yeah, it made for very kind of interesting viewing.
Yeah, absolutely. Princess Beatrice and Eugenie have opened up about their upbringings in a rare podcast interview. What did the royals have to say, and why are some fans convinced they snubbed Meghan Markle? Yeah,
well, this is quite a funny one. So Beatrice and Eugenie are good in the sense that they don't really talk about their personal lives. They don't cash in. They could. I mean, technically, there's nothing stopping Beatrice and Eugenie from doing what Meghan and Harry have done, selling books, going on TV, doing all of these things, but they've never done that. They're discreet, they live their own lives, and I think because of that, they are still in the fold with the royal family. But they did sit down for this podcast, I will say, and it was actually with one of Harry's ex-girlfriends, so that's the first sort of dig at Meghan. But the major dig would be, well, hang on, Meghan's got a podcast. We know she's desperate for high-profile guests. We know that she's tried to get Beyonce and Taylor Swift, and they didn't want a bar of it. So presumably, she's probably sitting in Montecito thinking, hang on, why haven't you done my podcast?
Imagine that.
Yeah, so very interesting. But it was a great interview. They really paid tribute actually to their mother, the Duchess of York. And I think that there's probably some truth in that. I think Fergie being quite a down-to-earth person, very earthy, I think that is maybe why they are quite normal people, because if you think about it, growing up in the royal family is extraordinary circumstances, but I do think that Fergie was really the one that has kind of guided them and given them a bit of normalcy. So yeah, it was very interesting to listen to.
Reilly Sullivan, so good to talk to you.
Thank you
so much for joining us.
Thanks.